Everyone, we're just going to give another couple seconds for more folks to enter into the room, but welcome. Okay, just for purposes of time, we will get started. So welcome everyone to the New Jersey Association for College Admissions Counseling Virtual College Exploration Program. This is for all New Jersey students. We are thrilled that you are here. So I just wanted to, my name is Randy Stam. I'm a school counselor at NJACAC High School, and I am an executive board member for NJACAC. So I just wanted to go through some real quick housekeeping items with you. First, if you want to ask any questions of our esteemed panelists, you can just use the Q&A button. So please make sure that you use that. Your camera and microphone have been turned off, so they are not able to see or hear you. So you have to use the Q&A feature. We also encourage you to sign up for more sessions. You can see the full listing of sessions at www.njacac.org/virtual-fair. And then finally, this recording will become available within a couple of days, and it will also be available on that same website, njacac.org/virtual-fair. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. Thanks so much, everyone, and here's hoping you learned a lot of great stuff.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Amanda Hudson, and I'm an admission counselor at Marymount Manhattan College. I am going to go ahead and share my screen with you all. So just one moment. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and start with introductions, and also just to make sure you are in the right seminar today. This is what to expect when you are a first-generation student. So we are going to give you tips and tricks that you need to know for going through the process. And again, we're just going to start off with some introductions. So my name is Amanda Hudson. Again, I'm an admission counselor at Marymount Manhattan College in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I'm an alum of Marymount. And I am also, or I was a first-generation student as well. So I can definitely relate to, being one of the first to go through the process, and, maybe kind of being a little nervous about it. And we're here to alleviate all of those worries that you may have. And then I'm going to hand it over now to Taylor.
Hi everyone, my name is Taylor Kirkpatrick. I'm an admissions counselor / EOF liaison at Bloomfield College in Bloomfield, New Jersey. I am not a first generation student, but working at Bloomfield, majority of our students are first generation. So I am very well versed on working with first generation students, helping them through the entire admissions process from start to finish. So from admissions to financial aid to registering for classes and the first day of classes as well. So I'm happy that you guys are here.
Hi everybody, my name is Takira Zajac and I'm with the University of Mary Washington. We are located in Fredericksburg, Virginia, which is about halfway between Washington, D.C. and Richmond, Virginia. With that, I am also a first generation student. I'm an alum of Mary Wash and I'm currently in our MBA program, so I'm really excited to see all of you today.
Great. Alrighty, so I am just going to go over the overview, the itinerary that we have here right now. We are going to discuss the admissions process and the important deadlines that come within the admissions process, so application deadlines, etc. Then we will go into financial aid, types of grants and scholarships, loans, and then we will end it off with tips and tricks for your college process. After all of this is said and done, we will also have time at the end for the questions that you are submitting within the Q&A box throughout this presentation. So to get started, the admissions process. So typically the most common process for admissions, or the most common application types that you will see, are early decision, early action, and rolling admission. So early decision is a Binding commitment. Not all schools have an early decision option. Actually, Marymount only just started having the early decision process last application year. So within the last year and a half. Early decision is a binding commitment application, meaning if you apply to Marymount or Bloomfield or wherever school you are looking at as an early decision student, if you are accepted, that means you will be attending and you are committing to that school. You're withdrawing all other applications from all of the other schools that you applied for. So we really only recommend this for students with a top choice school. That way, if you get into that top choice school, you know that you're solidified a spot at that institution. You also would get first grabs at financial aid. After that is early action. So early action, unlike early decision, is not binding. However, it is more of an early bird gets the worm application process. Keep in mind, you can do this through Common Application, the school's application. Some schools are not Common App friendly. A lot are. But definitely remember to take a look on the website of each institution that you're applying for to see which application they accept. So again, early action, unlike early decision, is not a binding commitment. You can submit that application up until that early action deadline. And if you are accepted, you will typically hear back before all of the other students, and you are getting, again, priority consideration for financial aid. Applying this way shows the institutions that you are excited about them, that you're really, excited about the college application process. So if you're looking for a way to stand out, but without the fear of the, committing right away, early action is definitely a great way to go. And then after that might be regular decision or rolling decision. Not all colleges are rolling admission. A lot have gone that way. Rolling means, they accept applications up until, classes start even. So Marymount is a rolling admission. Some have a hard and firm deadline for regular decision, which would probably be within the February or March area. But again, either regular decision or rolling admission will give you more time to submit that application, which again, early action would probably be around the December area or November. So definitely, again, each school has its own, applications, has its own deadlines. So you really have to make sure you're keeping track in a notebook or on a calendar, marking down every school you're interested in, what their deadlines are. So some deadlines, college application deadlines, again, every school is different. And the FAFSA, again, Taylor might want to go over this as well. So yeah, this FAFSA is October and then May 1, but Taylor will go into more detail about every school's deadlines, FAFSA, etc. Take it away.
So going off of financial aid, if Amanda, you could go to the next slide. So basically with financial aid, there is the FAFSA, which opens up on October 1st. The FAFSA is federal aid, so all schools that you are applying to would be through the FAFSA. So whether it's in-state, Bloomfield, Marymount, any other school, you would be filing the FAFSA. If you are staying in state and you are coming to, say, Bloomfield, Caldwell, Ryder, you would fill out what's called the HESA. So the HESA is your in-state aid. So it's basically called TAG. Once you file your FAFSA, make sure that you are going straight to the HESA website so that you're applying for your state aid. In New Jersey, because undocumented students cannot receive federal aid, undocumented students in the state of New Jersey can apply for state aid. So if you cannot apply for FAFSA and you are staying in state, whether you're going to a community college, a four-year college, a university, you can apply for what's called the New Jersey Alternative Financial Aid Application. And this is for undocumented students that are staying in state. So Financial aid is a big portion of how students can afford college. It basically breaks down exactly what they are entitled to. So when you file the FAFSA, you are filing to see basically what your EFC is. And your EFC is what determines the amount of aid that you are receiving. So if you are a full Pell, full tag student, that means that you are getting the most financial aid that you can from both the federal and the state. And then that also goes towards your scholarships and grants. So grants and scholarships are totally different from financial aid. And financial aid is how you get your loans as well. Which we'll be talking about later in the presentation. Loans, again, through your financial aid. So going into grants and scholarships. So grants and scholarships are totally dependent on colleges. Here at Bloomfield, we have scholarships based off of GPA and SAT scores. Since we are SAT optional, we do not require any test scores for scholarships. Make sure that you're looking at colleges to make sure that if there is a scholarship requirement, that you're meeting all of them, whether it's your SAT scores or letters of recommendation, community service, anything like that. There are possibilities of having requirements for scholarships. So like I said, the federal Pell Grant and the NJACAC grant are what you're going to receive from your financial aid. In New Jersey, we have what's called the EOF grant, which is Educational Opportunity Fund. I am an EOF alumni from New Jersey. So this means that students that financially qualify are eligible for this program. If you are accepted into the program, it does have a requirement. So you will have to go through a summer program. The program is about 4 to 5 weeks, the middle of June. This past year we were virtual, but mostly we have it on campus. It's about 40 to 50 students. You're all first-time incoming freshmen. You take about an English and math course. And then from there, if you successfully complete the program, you're kind of EOF for life, I kind of say. EOF is a family. It's not just a program. So if you can qualify for EOF, it's a great opportunity for a lot of our students. Like I was saying, with college awarded grants and scholarships, just make sure that you're really looking into them and seeing if any of the grants or scholarships that they don't have requirements. So like I said, for Bloomfield, we don't have an SAT requirement because we can give it scholarship based off of just GPA, or we can use your GPA and your SAT scores.
Okay, so now we're going to cover a variety of student loans that you guys will have access to. When you fill out your FAFSA form, that will put you in for the grant information that you guys already heard about, but it also puts you in to receive different student loans. The federal student loans have the two that you see on top, the subsidized loans and the unsubsidized loans. Both of those come with a 6-month grace period. What that means for you is that when you finish school or when you stop attending at least half time, you will have 6 months before you have to start making payments on those. The difference between the two is that the unsubsidized loans, while you're not paying on them in school, will still accrue interest. So anytime you don't pay on those, your balance will still increase. Generally helpful. During school, it's a little harder, but in general and throughout life, helpful if you pay on those even when you don't have to, even if it's like $10, $15, because that interest will accrue. The subsidized loans, anytime they're in what's called a deferment, and you have several of those over the lifetime of the loans, you do not accrue interest on those. So whatever your balance is, when you pick up your payments again, that balance will remain the same, okay? Private loans are personal loans that you would get in your name through a banking institution of some sort. Generally, it requires some sort of credit check. At this age, you more than likely will need a cosigner of some sort because you don't really have the established credit. All 3 of these loans will go on your credit history, so it does help you build credit history, because part of the things that they'll look for in your credit is the length of time that you've had accounts. So in the next 4 years, you will have had this account and it should remain in good standing because you don't have to make payments on them, with the exception of the private loans. Private loans, because it's a personal loan, those payments can start up right away. Your banking institution might have like a 30-day grace period. Some of them don't. That can vary from institution to institution. Federal Parent Plus loans are loans that a parent or a guardian can take out in their name for their student. It is still a federal loan, but there is a credit check required in that particular loan. The parents generally get a grace period, but it's not the length of time that the student is in school. So they'll usually start payments on that a little sooner than you would as a student with your unsubsidized or subsidized loans. The Parent Plus loans are unsubsidized, so they still qualify for deferments, same as the subsidized and unsubsidized loans, for the parents to be able to take advantage of if they need, but it would be in the parent's name. Now, because those generally require a credit check, if your parent or guardian does not qualify for those, you can take that letter back to the financial aid department, and generally that will get you more money in your own name as an unsubsidized loan. So you can still be able to take advantage of getting some additional funds for school with those. So that's generally good information to know that not a lot of people know about. But those are how your variety of loans work, okay? So tips and tricks for college applications. The biggest tip is know your deadlines. Your deadlines for colleges are different than what your deadlines at school are going to be. So we as admissions counselor have our deadlines for receiving your applications and receiving all of your information, but your schools have different deadlines on being able to get you guys your letters of recommendation, releasing your transcripts. So know your deadlines, be organized. It's usually helpful to get a calendar so that you can keep track of that. The next one is to call your counselor. We are literally here for you. You guys are why we all have our jobs, and we all love our job. So reach out, give us a phone call, email us. Some of us have texting numbers set up specifically to be able to text you guys. We acknowledge that is a popular form of communication, and that's okay. Most of us prefer texting too. It's fine. So reach out. Various schools, like my institution, does senior interviews, and it's a great chance for your counselor to get to know you before they read your application. So now they'll have a face with that name on that piece of paper. Very helpful for you. It's generally additional information that we can't find out about you looking at your transcripts or looking at your application. And I know that sounds weird, but there's a lot of information about you on your transcripts. If you're in choir, we now know you play an instrument. We may not know what you play, but we know you play something. There's something usually on there about sports. Again, we know you play something. We don't know what. So reach out so we get to know you a little bit better. Very helpful. Your other ones would be demonstrated interest. You guys might see that quite often, and that is things like the interviews, showing up to stuff like this, reaching out to your counselor, actually checking your emails, because most of us can tell when you actually look at your email, FYI. So look at those. Let us see that you are also interested in us, because we are very much interested in you, okay? And then you also have various experiences that the institutions offer. Sometimes you can shadow a student in the virtual world. You can probably still do something like that virtually. Sometimes you can come to campus and stay overnight. Check out the food, because let's be real, that's super important. We all know that. Biggest tip, and this one is one that as a first generation student, nobody told me, and I would have really benefited from this information, is to check out the area around your school, not just the school itself. The school itself is great, and that's where you're going to spend most of your time, but you are going to also want to go out with friends and do things after hours, right? So your schools can all be in a variety of areas. You may have a school that is in the middle of nowhere, and the only thing there is that school. Some people thrive in that environment. That is more than okay for them. I need a Barnes and Noble. If I can't find a Barnes and Noble, I will cry. Like, I have to have something, right? Some schools are in busy city areas where your school classes could be intersected by major intersections. Helpful to know. My mom can get lost going anywhere. Schools like that do not work out for her. She will have a minor panic attack every day. It would happen, right? And then some schools have smaller settings, more urban or so. So you can check out the areas, figure out what works best for you so that you yourself on the weekends or in your free time have something fun to do. So that's the biggest piece of advice for me. Ladies, did you guys have any other tips or tricks that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely covered it. Mine, again, was the opportunities that an institution may offer. You know, every school is different and have different programs. There's also summer programs that are available at some institutions. So it's not just sitting in on a class or overnight. You may be able to attend kind of like a mini semester there and take classes in a summer program before going into that institution. So look into summer programs, look into, you know, on-campus experiences, and definitely, you know, again, it cannot be reiterated enough that we are here to help. I know all of us are in a way Zoom fatigued. We're all, you know, whether we're online learning or working from home, but Zoom in a way has been a great way to go beyond a phone call and really have that face-to-face communication with the student. So that way, when I do read an application, you know, some schools are very, very large and they may not, you know, be able to remember that name to that face, but at Marymount, you know, we're a pretty small school. I can, you know, remember, oh, I spoke with this student. This is now their application. So it really makes all of the difference for sure. I'm not sure if Taylor has anything
Yeah.
else.
So at Bloomfields, we have what's called instant decisions, which basically means that we either come to your high school or, you know, in the past, you could have come to campus with basically your application, your transcript, your letters of rec, your SAT scores, if you want to submit them. And you would meet with either myself or one of the other counselors, and we would do kind of like an interview, a very informal interview. I kind of ask you a few questions, you know, in regards to, you know, what's your favorite subject? What's your favorite book? Who's your favorite TV character, movie character? And it just gives us a way to get to know you as a person. I can read your transcripts, you know, letters of rec, and see that you're an absolute fantastic student. But I also want to know, you know, what you did to get on the varsity team, you know, your sophomore year of high school. I always tell students your essay is what shows who you are as a person. If you can't come to campus or, you know, you can't make an instant decision day or anything like that, your essay is kind of what shows who you are as a person. It gives you the opportunity to express yourself in many different ways. Have read my fair share of, you know, so many essays, and that is basically one main reason where if I see, you know, that you need all this stuff, it's a way that I can work with my director in helping you with, you know, your application, any financial aid or anything like that. It kind of gives us that opportunity to kind of vouch for you because we know you as a student. Speaking of text messaging, I absolutely love when students text me because it's the best form of communication. I'm one of those people that like hate answering my phone. So text message is the best way to contact me. So knowing how your counselor likes to communicate, whether it's through phone calls, emails, text messaging, I can tell you so many students' phone numbers because they text me so often that it's just like, oh, you see their number, that's that student. So knowing and showing that you have interest in whatever school you apply to is such a big help to all of us admissions counselors.
Great. So thank you both so much. This is our keep in touch page, but by no means are we done just yet. I know that we have some time left, and we did receive a couple questions in the Q&A box already, a few of them, more are coming in. So our information is there, our names and our emails. Definitely feel free to reach out to us. You know, as the application process goes on over the fall and even into the spring. So let's see here. We have a few questions.
Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the questions was, would we say that there's still enough time to work on applications to aim for the early action deadline?
Absolutely. I mean, at least I would say this early on, the answer for all of us would be yes.
Yes.
For Marymount specifically, early action deadline is December 1st. Our early decision deadline is November 1st. Again, that may not be the same for everyone, but I would say in general, no matter which exact date the deadline is, right now for all institutions, it's definitely still early enough that early action is a possibility for you.
I think the earliest one, like mine is November 15th. So the earliest that I've seen is generally about mid-November. You still have all of October. So you've got plenty of time. And most schools have an incomplete status of some sort. So if you finish your application, like you can submit your comment application and not have the letters of recommendation or your transcripts, but still submit the application itself. When we get the rest of the information, we'll move you into a complete status and review you from there. But at least once it comes over, it still tells us that this application was in October 21st, but we didn't complete everything until November or whatever the case may be. And a lot of schools have something like that. So don't let one or two things hold up the application. Go ahead and submit it and then work on the rest of it as you go along. That's always okay.
And with early action, see if there's anything that you specifically need. So like for Bloomfield, our early action is really just your transcript. If you send your letters of recommendation and everything like that later, that's fine, but we just need your transcript in order to make an early action decision. Or yes, early action, sorry. So know what you need specifically so that you can work with your high school counselors in getting those documents straight away to us.
So another question was, does early decision also give first grabs at scholarships?
Yeah, I would say early decision is the first round of applications. And again, it is that commitment application. So it shows heavy interest in the institution. So I would definitely say yes, early decision all around will be that application where you do get that first, kind of grabs at financial aid. After that would be the early action. And then after that would be the regular decision or rolling admission applications.
I'd say early decision honestly gets you first grabs at a lot of things. Usually if you apply to a school early decision, you solidify your commitment before May 1, which is when everybody else would submit theirs. So usually you get started on like class selections and housing and such a little earlier than everybody else because you've already submitted all of your stuff. So early decisions generally first grabs at a lot of things, not just the scholarships. All right, next one is, I was wondering, since most juniors going into their senior year weren't able to take the SAT test, would not having a score affect our applications?
So at Bloomfield, we're SAT, ACT optional, so we do not require them for admissions. If you do apply to Bloomfield and you do submit your SAT scores, whether you've taken them your sophomore, junior, senior year, whenever you take them, we will gladly use them in determining a scholarship, but we do not penalize you for not submitting your SAT scores or ACT scores in receiving any type of scholarship, because we do have scholarships based off of just GPA and then GPA and SAT scores. So at Bloomfield, you would not be penalized for not submitting your SAT or ACT scores.
Mary Washington is the same, literally the exact same setup as Bloomfield. So that helps out too. What I would say is, in your searching, check your schools. If the schools were not already test optional or test choice, they may have changed it for this year. We acknowledge you guys not being able to take the test was not your fault. So a lot of schools have changed it, but sometimes there might be a stipulation. So while I was a test choice school like Bloomfield was, my nursing program still requires test scores. So if you have a 3.5 or higher, you can get out of that requirement, but anything lower than that, you still need it. And a lot of schools might have a stipulation like that on their test choice option this year.
Yes, Marymount was one of those institutions that wasn't test optional before COVID, but now because of COVID, we are. We do not want anyone to put themselves at risk or in danger just to go and take an SAT test or ACT test. So definitely, again, call up those admissions counselors or the main admissions offices, and they'll link you to the right person, but always check in with each institution to see what their most up-to-date criteria is.
Okay, so next one is when you say make yourself known to your counselor, does this include our high school counselor? And if so, how should we make ourselves known?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good for both parties on the high school side and college side to get to know who you are. This is actually a great tip as well. So a lot of the times when we read letters of recommendation, they may come from a guidance counselor who the student does not know very well. And so you can imagine if you don't know someone too well, that the recommendation letter may not be the strongest. Definitely when looking at letters of recommendation, go to a teacher who knows your work very well. Go to, maybe if you have a job outside of school, go to your employer. It doesn't always have to be the guidance counselor. Although I would say it is good to have a good relationship with your guidance counselor, because high school guidance counselors know so much about so many institutions. It really is their job. It's our job to know about our institution, but they know about all institutions, or almost all of them. There's so many, but definitely, know who they are and have them know you. But, the way you can get to be known by us, again, is texting, calling, emailing, Zooming. And if you don't know your direct admissions counselor information, the main admissions line is open and ready to answer your questions, and then they can put you in touch with your direct admissions counselor. Or if you're in their system, you may have gotten an email with the counselor introducing themselves to you. So definitely, it's all about showing up to your guidance counselor's office, saying hello, emailing them, but also emailing and reaching out to us as well.
Little tip, a trick actually, for your guidance counselors. For the schools that require a letter of recommendation to come from a guidance counselor, if you don't know yours, write up an all about me paper. And it doesn't have to be overly long, but something that talks about what you're doing in school, what you do outside of school, and what you're looking for either in college or to accomplish with taking a college. And then that way, even though they've just met you, they have something to reference. And that might make it a little bit easier for them to do a letter of recommendation for someone that they don't really know. And then that way, when we read it, we won't know that they don't really know you. And that might help you out a little bit more.
Very good tip.
All right. So next one is, my daughter is a sophomore. So when do you actually start applying? What year is early admission?
So look at when the applications are released. So for Bloomfield, I would suggest that if she's going into her senior year, our application is normally released in August. So know when the colleges are released. So you can either start applying in August, September, October, if a school's rolling admissions and you're kind of waiting to see, the campus life and things like that, just know when the application opens and when their deadlines are. So like I said, for Bloomfield, we're rolling admissions, but we do have early admissions. Normally students get emails about it, letting them know, hey, you can apply through early admissions, and then it would give the deadline. So for Bloomfield, that's really our only deadline, but know when the college applications open. I believe Common App normally opens in August. So if schools are Common App is the best way to apply, I feel like, because you can add about 10 schools in your Common App. So instead of applying to 10 different schools individually, you can just submit all your information on one and send it directly to those schools.
So that leads into our next one. Is there a different essay topic for every college?
If you're using the Common Application, no, the essay is embedded within the Common App. So again, that whole application is sent to that all of those institutions. Now, some institutions, depending upon what program you're going into, maybe if it's like a biomedical program or an engineering program, they may require an additional writing supplement for that program. At Marymount, we don't require additional writing supplement. We have some programs like art, dance, and theater that require a audition, portfolio, or interview. So there may be some additional requirements at institutions based on what program you go into. But when it comes to the general essay itself, again, with those exceptions of, certain programs, typically, again, it is just that Common App essay. Now, if you are not using the Common App, or you're applying with Common App but to an institution that is not Common App friendly, so you're applying to those 10 Common App schools and then the 11th is not Common App, that may be a different essay. That institution may have their own prompts that they want you to go off of. But that's why, applying with Common App is typically so favored by students, because it definitely, is very user-friendly and very time-saving.
I have nothing to add to that. So. That was a great explanation. So we'll do this one. If a situation where SATs are canceled, like because of COVID, will admissions be based off of GPA only? So I actually have an answer for this, and it's an analogy. A friend of mine says that your application process is like a sundae, an ice cream sundae. So your transcripts are the ice cream. Your extracurricular activities are the sprinkles on top. Community service could be the cherry, right? So most schools now do a holistic approach. So while, yes, it is mostly based on your GPA, the extra things that you do will also count and are also important. We want to make sure that when you get to the colleges that you're listening to and you're interested in, that you're not just going to come and do your academics and sit in your room. Like, we want you to do extra things. We want you to participate and be engaged. Because sometimes, one, it helps you find your people, and two, it can make you more successful, because sometimes what you do after college isn't necessarily what you know, but it can be who you know. So you can really branch out and go a lot of places with some of the extra things that you do. So the whole thing is usually reviewed. It's not just your transcripts. We like to know what you as a person do. So if you're a varsity captain, or you've done some sort of research, or you didn't do any extracurricular activities because you have a full-time job, you help out your family, we want to know all of that information. All of that still shows good time management skills on your part for having good grades just the same. Hopefully that helped. Ladies, anything extra?
I think that was fantastic.
I just want a Sunday.
I heard that. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. So I've been stealing it from her every chance I get. And I told her I was going to do it. So next question. What determines if you get accepted for early decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, every institution might have their own criteria, or what they determine would be an accepted applicant. I will say, at least on the Marymount side, and I'm sure this is, similar to other institutions, early decision, again, is a really, it puts you in a more competitive light. Being a student who is putting themselves out in the forefront, one of the first to apply, and really showing that commitment to that institution. From my experience, we do take a more critical look at those applications if you are applying early decision. So, someone that we are going to accept through early decision is going to be somebody, with that strong GPA, but also have, we take the holistic approach, that ice cream sundae approach, where we are looking at what clubs and organizations you're a part of. We are looking to see a passionate essay, so we really are taking a very critical look, like we do with all applicants. But again, this might be where the academics come in a little bit more, making sure you are a top student, that we know is not just dedicated, but is also going to thrive in our institution, which also comes down to fit, making sure that where you're applying early decision is somewhere you really want to go, somewhere where you feel like you will be able to academically thrive in. So for example, Marymount's a small college. If you want that big college feel, you may not want to apply early decision to a small institution if lecture halls are going to be your thing. If you don't want to be in a lecture hall of 200 people and you want a more smaller class size, maybe then early decision would be a good choice for you at my institution. So that's just how it is on my side. I don't know if anyone else has a different kind of experience, but definitely I would say early decision students are going to be one of those, students who are getting, a little more of a critical lens put on them because you are putting yourself out there as one of the first applicants.
All right, I'll take
Okay.
We'll go into the next one. What are the benefits of having community service on your applications? I feel like that goes with that analogy that I gave you. So it shows commitment and that you are willing to help others, which is always a really nice thing to have.
And some schools actually have scholarships based off of community service hours. So if you do have community service hours and you're applying to a school that does have that community service scholarship, make sure that you can qualify for it and that you're applying for it as well.
Some outside institutions will also give scholarships for community service. So you can also look at some of those. Most colleges will accept scholarships from outside institutions. We want you to come. So if that's what you need to help get you there, we're not gonna, most of us won't say no. So look at that as well. You can use that to help you out in a multitude of ways. What year should students take the SATs?
Yeah, so if SAT taking is an option in the near future, if COVID allows that to happen, we have students that take their SATs even in their senior year. I wouldn't recommend waiting to the final semester of your senior year. That might be a little bit too late, especially if your application has already been reviewed. Typically, we do see, students that have taken the SAT over the summers in between junior and senior year. We see a lot of students that are taking SAT in their first semester of senior year. But again, it really is kind of up to where the world is going to stand. We are test optional most schools right now. But just keep in mind, when you are submitting an application, test scores are usually a part of that if they're not test optional. So you don't want that to be the only thing holding up your application if you want a decision by November or by December. So, definitely try to schedule it in the months before that.
Mm-hmm. And when you're that's the same with ACTs as well, but also see, like, especially if you take the SAT or ACTs more than once, if a school super scores. So super scores means that they take one score from one test and another score from another test, and they combined it and basically give you a new score. So if schools are doing that and they can do that towards your scholarship, make sure that you're submitting all of your test scores. You can download, your SAT scores directly from College Board, and it has all of your scores on it. So if you are taking them, say your junior year, and then you take them again your senior year, just submit both of them because you never know.
So in the interest of time, there are two questions that I think are good ones on here. So one of them is, if I apply to a college with the early decision deadline, should I still fill out the FAFSA form just in case?
Yes. Fill out the FAFSA form every single year, whether you're going to a community college, a four-year college, fill out the FAFSA. Yeah. It is open October 1st. Normally, with freshmen, there is some leeway with the deadline, but once you get into your upperclassmen years, there will be more of a deadline push, but you file your FAFSA all 4 years. Always file your FAFSA if you stay in state, always apply for your HESA.
Exactly. The other one is, how do we integrate having a job into our applications? And this one I had to do for high school because I'm the oldest of four. So with that, you can either list it in your activities part on the common application, and you would simply just call it a job, and then wherever you are working or however you would like to title it. If you don't feel like that's an appropriate place to put it, there's an additional information slot on the common application as well. So you can always say, I did not participate in a ton of activities, which is why this looks a little skim or light or blank. even because I had a full-time job doing whatever it was you were doing. And then that way we still have the information, even if it's not necessarily listed on there. So you have two ways to do that one. And you can use that additional information for a lot of things. So anything that you feel like you need to explain to us, put it in there.
And Randy has popped back on. So thank you all so much. Again, our emails are there.
Thank you so
Please feel
much.
free to reach out to us. I'm so sorry if we couldn't get to your question, but thank you all so much for your time and all of those questions.
Okay, so thank you everyone. This was an awesome presentation. I really learned a lot, and I hope that many of the students and families did as well. So thank you for joining us. When you close out of the window, you will be given a quick 4-question survey. So we really ask that you please complete that. And then also, please sign up for more sessions. There are several workshops that are being offered throughout the rest of this week, and then through most of next week are a lot of individual college sessions, so you can learn about specific colleges. And again, the recordings for these sessions will be made available in the coming days, and you can find that information on www.njacac.org/virtual fair. All right, everyone, thank you so much, and have a great rest of your evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.